There's a hot row about Prince Harry. According to a new bombshell biography, Harry's school friends said that he was nuts for dating Meghan Markle after she constantly berated them over jokes about transgender people and feminism. The new book, Revenge, Meghan, Harry and the War Between the Windsors, alleges some of Harry's old Etonian mates thought Meghan was princessy and had no sense of humour after challenging party guests when they contravened her values. The revelations come as the Sussexes made their first appearance since the Jubilee today. Harry addressed the United Nations with a speech intended to invoke the memory of Nelson Mandela, but ended up with him wading in on climate change, the war in Ukraine and US politics.
Climate change wreaking havoc on our planet, with the most vulnerable suffering most of all. The horrific war in Ukraine to the rolling back of constitutional rights here in the United States, we are witnessing a global assault on democracy and freedom.
So speaks the man who hasn't been elected to anything. So, is this all down to Meghan's influence? Has she made Harry go nuts? Mike?
Well, I'm very pleased that he feels so strongly about the vulnerable people in Britain being damaged by climate change, because, I mean, he's talking about how the world needs to be addressed by everybody, apart from him, because he does what he likes. I mean, it shows you how the UN has fallen down the tubes, really, doesn't it, that they choose Prince Harry to invoke the memory of Nelson Mandela. I mean, how much more ridiculously pompous can this guy get? He doesn't know how anybody lives. He doesn't like anything that he does. He keeps making speeches that he's obviously been told to speak out about by his wife, Meghan. And clearly, from all the things we know about her, this book, this latest book, is revealing more of the same, effectively. A woman who can't stand it if she's not #1 in every single picture that she's in. She can't deal with being in the royal family because she had to behave in a particular way that she didn't want to. She's turned him into a man who used to be loved by this country and is now kind of detested.
But you could look at it. But you could look at this the other way. I mean, the fact that the old Etonians thought Meghan was princessy and had no sense of humour because she took them to task for what were possibly not very funny jokes that were probably possibly sexist. I mean,
we don't know.
We don't know. But all I'm saying is that just, you know, somebody, you know, she's a woman who was married before. She's an independent woman, and actually, you know, calling out jokes that aren't funny, if they aren't funny. As I said, we don't know these jokes because they haven't been reprinted. But if they're not funny, then you do actually have to take them to task. And actually, sometimes you do get told, oh, you've got no sense of humour. It was meant in a jokey way. But one person's jokes are another person's, you know, offensive take on things.
Well, that's fine. But maybe, if that was going to be the case, and those are the kind of friends that Harry had, maybe he shouldn't have introduced it to them.
Well, there is
and
a
maybe
point
he
to
should have
say,
said
yes.
to them, by the way, don't tell any of those horrible trans jokes in front of my new girlfriend, because she's a bit woke.
Yeah. Also, you know, you can judge people by the friends they keep and the company they keep.
do that.
You know, if these were his great pals, what did it say about him? But I think the most extraordinary thing about it all is, you know, imagine you've just started walking out with a prince of the realm. You know, imagine you really would quite like the relationship to last and endure, and just take it down to normal life and normal girls and normal boys or normal partners or people copping off with whoever they fancy. At the beginning of relationships, normally you sort of mirror the other person. So if they really love sport, you pretend you like it. You know, if they really love rom-coms, you'll sob along with them, even though you detest them in real sci-fi. You pretend it's your great passion. Isn't really. So to call out someone's mates and say you don't think any of their jokes are funny, and to you know, to actually call it and be courageous enough to say you don't if you don't, that denotes a certain kind of sort of strength of character, don't you think?
Well, I think it does.
Rather than just going along with it just for you know, to keep the relationship jogging along. I think it's quite something.
It is quite something, but whether or not that was appropriate and whether or not Harry could see that coming, because look, Harry is clearly a changed man, because we were talking at one stage about how he turned up to a nice fancy dress party with a lovely sticker on it and all that, and then we were also talking about another party where he turned up and he took off all his clothes. So clearly we're talking about somebody who's perhaps a reformed character, and maybe she's the one who reformed him. The question is, though, at what stage do you do that, and are we seeing a further trashing of Meghan Markle because we're only getting one side of it, or are we just seeing a pattern of behaviour? And I tend to think that it's a pattern of behaviour, particularly when you see Prince Harry standing up at the United Nations. I mean, if somebody asked me to speak there, I'd go, sorry, why are you asking me? You know, he isn't elected. He isn't part of the British royal family anymore. It makes me think that there are so many better and more appropriate people to talk about Nelson Mandela than him. And also, I really don't want to hear from him on his views on the climate, on the basis that he does seem to hop on a private jet and a helicopter any time he can. I mean, it's just like,
so the book does tell about Meghan going to a wedding with Harry as one of their earliest dates. Harry arrives arrives premium economy on a plane. Meghan arrives on a private plane that she's commandeered from some chum or something. So they do love a private plane, don't they?
They do.
The two of them.
I mean, first of all, Prince Harry's still a much-loved member of the royal family.
Not
That's
here.
a direct quote from the Queen. And the thing is, it's not. He's actually up to the Queen. So he's still a member of the royal family. And you could be right, actually, that he is a reformed character. We haven't forgotten about him turning up in that Nazi uniform at all. A terrible, terrible picture that came out of that. But yes, maybe he is a reformed character. Maybe this is what he wants to do now. You know, he did set up the charity Centre Ballet with the Crown Prince of Lesotho back in the 2000s.
But shouldn't he lead by example, though?
So he is leading by example by setting up that charity,
Private jet.
working with young children in Africa. So I think talking at Nelson Mandela Day, I don't think is inappropriate because he works with a charity on the ground in Southern Africa. I think when it comes down to this book, which is titled Revenge, this feels like Tom Bower's revenge, to be honest. I think, you know, he clearly doesn't like Meghan and Harry, and that's absolutely fine. You know, he has all these missives about them in this book. Obviously, they have been fact-checked and legally checked, or else he would be in a lot of trouble. But I just think, you know, the obsession with them it's bizarre to me.
Thoroughly enjoy it, though.
Yeah.
I mean